So today we're back on the War Thunder dev server looking at the XM800T, and if you want to know my most anticipated vehicle coming to the next major update, it's this thing. I'm not really interested in the Fox 3 missiles, I'm not really interested in top tier air, but I'm really interested in this little bitty light tank that is a modernized Stuart in a way, and then also you could probably call it a miniature Bradley. But the reason I'm very interested in this thing now is that Gaijin has actually secretly buffed this thing to be an insane SPA unit. And even though it's 7.7, so if we look at like the American tech tree, you have the 163, which means there's an RESPA there. I would also say, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion right now, the 163 and the XM800T, I would almost want to take the XM800T just because it's more versatile. And then also, it can kill tanks with its new DM63, which is a full belt of DM63, which is also pretty crazy. For example here, let's look at France. If you go down to France with the AMX-10P, its DM63 has one HE shell in it. Also, the same thing is for Japan, with the sub 1/2. This vehicle is got pretty much the same gun, but it's a DM63 with a 1 HE round. So this thing is going to just be able to shoot DM63 at tanks, which means it should be able to kill a ton of tanks. But the thing that Gaijin has done, and I'll even put in some of the dev server like footage or like the stat card on the dev server, is that they've increased this thing insanely. If you didn't know, when this vehicle first came out, it did not have a stabilizer. It also could not float. And then also it was just very poor whenever it came to its gun handling statistics, so whether it be turret rotation speed and all that sort of stuff.
It's very, very thin. You're not going to be thinking about that too much. Some of its features aren't ready yet, like some of the modifications and that sort of thing. You've got DM63, which is the current top belt, so it's not going to have the most penetration, but it is really agile. I'll show you a little bit. It won't go around too much, but just so we can have a look at the general maneuverability. It's pretty good. So you really can speed, which is pretty nice. So you've got a lot of initial control over the map if it's your first spawn, which is nice. You know, you can quite easily get to caps, you can get to unpredictable positions. It's really, really nimble, really mobile, so that's going to help a lot. And even though it doesn't have the highest penetration, it doesn't really need it that much. You've got the maneuverability to get around to the sides of stuff, and you know, you can always knock out light stuff anyway. So it's very agile, very quick, and it's going to be a pretty nice support light vehicle rather than... See, you've got distinctions. You've got like regular light vehicles, like I guess in the US, like the Sheridan.
But now, since the dev server is updated, and the dev server will be running through June 13th, so the update is a pretty far out away if you're watching the video on the day it releases. But this vehicle has just went insane. So as we see right here, let's compare the stats of it. So the fire rate is at 1,050 rounds per minute. If we go to Italy, for example, with the R3T20, it is at 996. So it's faster firing than the R3T20. It also has 65 degrees of gun elevation. And then if we go to R3T20, 60 degrees. Then we go back to America. The turret rotation speed is at 90 degrees a second. Once again, this is a spaded and as well as an Ace Crew vehicle right here. So it is going to be different stock. But we go to an Ace Crew spaded R3T20, 45 degrees a second. So if you want to see what this vehicle is actually just within the tech tree, this is a new thing you can do. You can drag your vehicle, put it right there, and it'll throw it back into the tech tree. But if we go view it now, it should say 63 degrees a second of turret rotation speed. So even stock, this vehicle is pretty insane whenever you do look at that. Even if we look at vehicles, for example, with the Great Britain, with the Falcon, I do have the modifications for the actual gun stuff. But look at this, 80 degrees a second with an Ace Crew, 650. This thing is going to be insane whenever it comes to being like an SPA unit within War Thunder. Like I feel like this is probably one of the best SPAs within the game. If we would put it at like 6.3 to 6.7. And honestly, I really hope Gaijin does that. Maybe they put in a quote unquote early version of this vehicle to where they take away the DM63, or they add the XM800W, which is basically just a wheeled vehicle of this version of this tank. So it has pretty much the same turret, but it's wheeled. So I actually have some pictures of that I took at a museum of the vehicle in particular. It's a very orange thing. I believe it was like an EOD edition of the vehicle for a very long time, but it is the vehicle that this gun would be put onto. Now, the thing about this vehicle is that I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, well, dog, we don't want this Cold War machine into our World War II BRs. But this is just a really good vehicle. Like if they put an early version within like right here and put it at like 6.7, just keep the stabilizer but remove its DM63 and put it as an SPA, this thing would be really good. There's a lot of like hidden things about having an SPA that's very mobile, and also one that can track very, very, very reliably. Like if you've ever played the British tech tree and you played vehicles like the Skink, even though the Skink is really good at like being an SPA, like you can't really gun it out with just like a fighter, The thing about the Skink is the turret rotation speed with only 44 degrees a second is pretty bad. Like whenever you're trying to like hit something, you have to move the whole of the tank to actually keep on track of a target. But with 90 degrees potential with a nice crew and everything, this thing would just be able to track jets. It will be able to track that 262 that flies across the map, or it'll be able to track that meteor or different vehicles like that. So it honestly is going to be pretty good. But yeah, let's put it into practice. Let's do a little bit of a test drive here and show you guys what this vehicle is about. As you can see, pretty much you just aim your mouse somewhere and it automatically just tracks to it. That is like very quick. And since it's stabilized, you could be an SPA on the move. You can just shoot somebody off and just keep on rolling. And there's nothing they can really do. So America's going to be really scary at like 7.7 now. Because they're going to have an SPA that can like move around and be on the move and still shoot at planes. Which is kind of crazy to think about. Even though that one's a little bit too far away to shoot with this thing and also on the move. I mean, imagine this thing spawning in and being pretty much in the middle of the map within like 30 seconds. So you'll never know this thing is at. Like if my spawn was over there and I come over here, no one would ever know to actually just like look in this general direction to find an XM800T. So this thing is going to be randomly just placed around the map. It's going to see a plane. It's just going to shoot it down. Which, I mean, this is a little bit far for this little 20 mil sometimes, but we should be able to get like one hit on it, I think. But yeah, the only like downside I would definitely say to this vehicle is the belts. You only get a total of 4. So in my opinion, I would definitely say it's still better to be used as a light tank. You know, go scout around, go shoot tanks whenever you get on sight of them and everything. But if you want to be an SPA, like taking like one belt maybe of the HE rounds would probably be pretty good. I mean, as you can see, it's shooting at World War II tanks, but it still does pretty nice whenever we kind of look at that, right? So yeah, what do you guys think about the XM800T? Would you like the XM800W to be put into the tech tree but remove its anti-tank capabilities and put in like as an SPA? Because I feel like America has been lacking an SPA for a very long time, and this one is really put into a place to where it really wouldn't help, and also it's classified as a light tank, so you wouldn't be able to actually use it as an SPA. Like the spawn points of it would be a little bit rough to just say it's an SPA unit. But yeah, overall this vehicle is pretty fun. I think it's going to be one of my favorite vehicles. It's very similar to the Fox. It's very similar to a bunch of the like rat light tanks, which is some of my favorite playstyles within the game. I mean, it can just go through just front of this. It has a little like, what's this thing? Is it a yes? No, what is that? I think yeah, it's an M60. Has an M60 as a like 50 cal replacement. Sadly, it doesn't have a 50 cal. That'd be pretty funny though. But yeah, it's a cool vehicle. Like I really do like it. I really hope a lot of people play this thing and kind of just see how insane this thing is going to be. It can even float, as we can see right here. It's not the best at floating, as you can see. It's pretty poor. It goes pretty slowly. But even while you're floating, you're still stabilized. And the turret rotation speed is just so good. Like you can just place your mouse somewhere and it's just there. So yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we will see you guys in the next War Thunder video.